Everybody ready?
I just want to start out by saying all three of us are really glad to see you guys. It's glad to be back in a new session, the 114th General Assembly. We have started off really quickly this year. We got a regular session going and a special session coming up, and we're going to focus on education and keeping taxes low and really keeping government out of people's way. I'm personally excited that on Monday, Donald J. Trump's going to be sworn in as our president, both 47th. Now the 47th president of the United States. And we in Tennessee are really looking forward to working with this new administration. The last 4 years have been rough for Americans. The next 4 are going to be like heaven. We're excited. So what do y'all want to talk about today?
Jonathan, you want to start us off?
Sure. I wanted to ask, the special session will in part deal with immigration. Do you have a sense of what that will entail? Will the National Guard, for instance, be ready on January 20th or somewhere after the 27th to be, helping to deport people and that sort of stuff?
I've never really understood that premise or even issue that's out there. Our guard troops have gone to the border. They've tried to help there because, Biden had a completely open border, stem the flow of illegal immigrants into all 50 states. And so for us in Tennessee, I anticipate that this will go back to the way it was before President Biden's dismal performance as president. I mean, when Trump was here the first 4 years, we didn't need the National Guard or anything like that. When an illegal immigrant was arrested for a crime, when they came into contact with someone in the natural course of business and it was obvious that that was an illegal immigrant, then ICE was notified and they were deported. And so I would assume anyways that it would go back to the way it has always been, where federal law and code is enforced. So here in Tennessee, that's what I expect to happen.
I think first and foremost, I would assume President Trump will probably go after the illegals who have committed criminal acts to get them out of the country first and foremost. I know the question always goes to the latter, but I think it's the former or the previous thing that it's going to be before. But we're gonna try to pass some common sense immigration bills that will protect the interests of Tennessee and the citizens, as well as working with the federal government, whatever that may entail.
Logistically, the new rules package, I think it was rule number 4, that would allow yourself to potentially eject a member of the gallery for potentially up to 2 years for the General Assembly. Logistically, how is that going to work? Will Tennessee Highway Patrol be collecting driver's license of everyone who's going up in the gallery and then basically putting, for lack of a better term, a no-fly list? Will it be up to them to kind of determine that? And
no, we'll be coming out with more information later this afternoon on how the process will work in the balcony for people who want to come in from the public and be a part of the proceedings, but not be a participant of the proceedings. And I think that's what was made on the House floor with Lear Lamberth talking about you're up there to observe, not to participate. And so, we do have a few every now and then that are repeated offenders. And so this is for repeated people. A lot of times, we have members who went to Washington and they sat up in the balcony of Congress and they saw people all the time, I guess a sergeant of arms coming up and saying, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, or we're going to have to remove you, you're going to have to remove you. And so it should focus the same way, but there should be a level. If you're removed numerous times, then, there should be some type of consequence.
But will THP be like the enforcer of saying this person is on this list?
When we send out the press release, I don't know, Connor, tomorrow or some point, then you'll have a better idea about how that works.
Okay. And
I will say this is my 13th year in the General Assembly. Until the last year or two, this has really not been an issue. There are 10 or 12 people that like to go up into the gallery and holler and shout little insults and cause a scene and make it all about them. And then the rest of the public and the rest of Tennessee is just trying to come up here and observe their government at work and be in the observation gallery to see what is going on. And we welcome that. But when you have a couple of people, it's literally a few bad apples that try to spoil the bunch. And so all this rule does is say we're going to pluck those bad apples out and say, unfortunately, for a short time, until you can learn to behave yourself in common, decent culture and public, then you're just not going to be able to be in the observation gallery. And then everybody else can filter in and take those seats that are now available from the folks that misbehaved.
On the special session real quick, Governor DeSantis had kind of wanted a similar special session in Florida, and Republican lawmakers there have actually kind of balked and said, hey, this might be getting out a little over our skis. We don't know what policies the new Trump administration is going to put into place, and what if we did something that counteracted or messed up that? Do you have any concerns about that? You guys are going to be in here the week after Trump gets in office. We don't know what the Trump administration.
Look at that. At the end of the day, I can't speak for Governor DeSantis in the General Assembly, and I'm friends with Speaker Perez down there, who I think does a great job. Their issues are their issues. Whatever they debate, I don't know. But here, we've been working with the governor's office in the Senate and the House, and Leader Lambert has with Leader Johnson and the governor, coming up with some common sense things that we're wanting to do that we think will be beneficial, that will help us help navigate what the administration is looking to do in Washington.
Vivian.
Chairman Faison, Hurricane Helene took a really heavy toll on your district and surrounding areas. What are you hoping to see out of the special session in terms of storm relief? And then also, very recently, Governor Lee mentioned publicly that a lot of relief has been delayed from the federal government. What's your view or your response to the timing of this special session? Should it have come sooner?
I would love this to come sooner. Obviously, there's about 5 counties they were damaged greatly. There's still major issues with infrastructure, people still without houses. I don't know if logistically and constitutionally before people were sworn in on the second Tuesday at high noon that we could have logistically pulled off a special session. But this is what I know. It's the good timing now. And this package, I've sat down with the governor and his staff looking at everything that we're gonna do in the next few weeks. I think it's good, it's beneficial. They're allowing me to carry a bill that will bring property tax grants to people who've lost their entire property, people their houses have been destroyed, and we have the money appropriated already for that. We're gonna help individual counties and cities. Right now, there's a 12% match to draw down federal funds. We're gonna help backfill that. Maybe they only have to come up with a 5% match. Then we're also gonna backfill the interest on the debt that would be accrued to our local government. This is gonna be a very good bipartisan feel good. We're taking care of our people. And then I hope that moving forward in Tennessee, when we see a total devastation, whether it's a tornado out here or a hurricane flood, which should have never happened in East Tennessee, I hope that we've set precedent that we're here to take care of our locals and set an example to the rest of America who's not getting it right. We're gonna take care of our people.
Chattanooga Times Request back there. You have a question? Okay, Nicole?
Hey, she just became my favorite person in the room. She took a pass on the question.
On flood relief and education and immigration all being roped in the special session together, there is some perception that maybe votes can be whipped with regards to one issue and another, and kind of what is the perception of that from you guys, and how do you, what's your response to that?
I'll take the first stab at that. One of the beautiful things about the way we do and operate government in Tennessee is nothing is bled through. We don't, if you open up a certain section of code, that's all you're gonna have. I've heard all these rumors that we're combining bills and vouchers with flood relief and immigrant. Everything's completely separate. So what you need to know, first and foremost, everything is separate. We will approach in committee every bill independently in separate committees. Secondly, the notion that the speaker or the governor or anybody in leadership would hold hostage somebody in East Tennessee and their people, that we're not going to bring relief to them if they don't vote for the governor's voucher bill, that's silly. And I wish no one in the news would push that. That's like a cheap blog on the internet who's saying stuff like that. Those conversations have never.
There are a few.
Well, yeah, there are a few. They're not in here. So it's just not going to happen. And I would be all of us would be grateful if you listen. You send your people here. We expect them to vote their conscience, vote their people, without worry of retribution that we're not going to take care of the 11 counties who got hit. It's an asinine notion, and it's not going to happen.
Fox
We-
17?
I think Leader wants to.
Well, actually, I want to say this too, and just to follow up what the chairman said. Look, he lives in an area that was hit hard. I was down there with the governor and the 2 senators within days of that hurricane hitting. We are going to be there for Northeast Tennessee, and we're going to set up a process so we can be there for anybody in Tennessee that gets hit by a natural disaster of this magnitude. There's no connection whatsoever between any education issue or Northeast Tennessee relief or hurricane relief or disaster relief or on the immigration issues. There's zero truth to that. There have been no conversations of that type. We are doing those 3 things together in one special session because they are time sensitive. All 3 of those need to be done now and to get them done now, but there's no connection between any of those issues.
I find it fascinating is the Democrats who are complaining about it mostly. I'm sure that's what they did when they were in control back in the day. That doesn't mean we have to do it. So I think from their historical perspective, they think we're going to do the same thing that they did back then, which we're not going to do. And so it's just more rhetoric. It's just to do some stuff to try to distract and not get something passed that we think we're going to. It's white noise is what it is.
Fox 17.
Forgive me, you guys may have already answered this, and you brought up the time-sensitive issues of immigration and Helene. Why weren't those things dealt with earlier before this session and then included into this session together?
We weren't in session when the hurricane hit. So that's why they weren't handled at that time. So we are in session now, and it is absolutely critical that we help the folks in Northeast Tennessee, that we do everything we can to support education and continue the hard work that we put in over the last decade to improve education in this state. And as far as immigration is concerned, as I stated earlier, I mean, President Biden immigration issues. So he has left us quite a mess where every state has become a border state. It is critical that we get on that and address those issues immediately. And so all three of those are time sensitive. And I will remind you that obviously we will do the special session. We will get that done in an efficient manner. And then we will go directly into the regular session where many of these issues will continue to be addressed. But the time sensitive nature of these three is they need to be done right now. For some of the hurricane relief, and Chairman Facey can probably speak better to this than I am because he lives there and is a strong advocate for Northeast Tennessee, but we did need a couple of months really to identify where the biggest needs were. It took 40-something days for the federal government to really let us know what assistance was going to be available there. So we needed a little bit of time too to really rally with those county mayors and city mayors and individuals in Northeast Tennessee, and quite frankly, take a lead off of what Chairman Faison and the rest of our members up there have been sharing with us on what their needs are. Now we know that and we can move forward.
Now in Tennessee, that all of our property assessors have identified every single property that was impacted by the storm. So when I carry the bill that would allow for a property tax grant, we already have identified every single piece of property that was hurt. We couldn't have done that in November.
Right.
Stacy?
Mr. Speaker, there's been reports that several members of your caucus were served federal subpoenas by a federal marshal yesterday related to the upcoming corruption trial of former Speaker of House and his ex-chief of staff. Will you serve with one of those subpoenas to testify as well? And if you were, can you speak to what you think that testimony might be?
Well, the subpoenas were from Mr. Cawthorn and Mr. Cassida. It was from their attorneys delivered through U.S. Marshal. I got one of them. A lot of people got one of them. I have no idea why they want to call me because I'm a prosecution witness. So it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not in their shoes and I'm not talking to their attorneys. So I'm sure I'm going to get one from the U.S. Attorney's Office whenever they send it out. So it is what it is.
And with upcoming session, special session, last year similar legislation related to school vouchers fell. Do you believe, and does the governor believe they have the votes this time, especially when you had some rural Republicans that were part of the reason it fell in the previous session?
I can't speak for the Senate, but in the House we're in a very good place, and yes, I believe we'll pass it.
You believe the Assembly will pass it?
Right.
Channel 2?
Hi, I'm Tori. Nice to meet you. I missed kind of the beginning of the discussion on the House floor about transgender athletes. Could you guys just give me a rundown?
Well, Representative Garrett's in the back, and you could probably follow up with him right afterwards, but he filed a resolution to honor Riley Gaines. Ms. Gaines lives in Sumner County. I would very much, if you're not familiar with Ms. Gaines and her quest to defend female athletes, I get to know her. She is a phenomenally strong young lady. And for us in the House, I think we showed on the Republican side of the aisle that we're going to stand up for Title IX. We're going to stand up for ladies' sports, for women's sports. We're going to keep men out of women's restrooms. We're going to keep men out of women's sports. We're going to keep sanity in this state while other states have gone insane on this issue. And so Riley has been a really good champion on that issue, and we honored her on the House floor. That got lost a little bit in translation with some of the comments from the Democrats, but that's what the resolution actually does, is it honors Riley Gaines for her courageous efforts to just keep women's sports for women. Sounds like it's common sense to me.
Well, I think, you look at it, and one of the issues that Vice President Harris got beat was over this issue. I'm surprised that so many Democrats voted against it, to be honest with you. It's shocking that they would stand with allowing men to play against women in sports, and then one member standing up and saying it's not a problem in Tennessee when it is a problem all over the place. And so that's where we stand, that's where Tennesseans stand, and so that's where we're going to be.
Sam?
Any concern on the portion of the rules that allows members who are called to order more than 2 or 3 times, or I don't even know what the number is.
It's a lot more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, several. To remove them to another Cornell Hull and so forth. I mean, any concern that could have constitutional problems?
No, I mean, if you look back at Montana, that's exactly what they did when they had a member that was unruly that got voted down. They did remote voting. They did it a little bit different, but they said you can continue to vote. We're going to set up remote voting. I don't see any lawsuits over there saying you can't do it. Congress allows remote voting. There were people in Congress who never came to Washington. They were sitting in their PJs in California, sitting there voting. So I don't think there's any constitutional problems with it. Look, at the end of the day, you're on the board and you're on the House floor and you expect to have decorum and respect for the institution. Same thing if you're in the gallery. The same thing applies. Members on the floor, you're going to have to go through multiple legislative days to finally get to that point where you would have the ability to have remote voting. But it is something, one of the things I know when we were going through the expulsions, people were like, well, why'd you do expulsions? Why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do that? Well, we were trying to get our rules up to allow us to have more options at our disposal for those instances without having maybe to move to expulsion or use censorship, and then allow it to move into a remote voting aspect. So I think it enhances what we're doing and allows us varying options for bad behavior.
Andy?
Yeah. I had a question related to Jason Zachary. Why did you move him over to be?
Andy, he's standing right back there, man. Be nice.
Did he do something to anger you, or? Seriously, what was your thinking behind that? What are you hoping?
Well, look, there's a lot of members who I met with to talk about becoming deputy speaker. And they're all qualified, great individuals, and so I was trying to find someone that would fit in with my philosophies and my views on the conservative side as well. Not saying that Curtis wasn't. Curtis is a little more laid back. Jason's a little more fiery, which he enhances what we're doing as a team, and so I look forward to working with him. And the nice thing is he has chaired committees before, so he has very keen insight. And so as deputy speaker, one of the things he's going to be is over all the committees and working with the chairman. So I think that really lends itself as well.
And I'm sorry, who did you put in to replace him?
Well, you
Deborah
can't
Moody.
replace him,
No, don't replace
but
him.
who I put in was Deborah Moody.
For Calvin rules. Yeah.
Mariana?
Representative Lamberth, you filed on the House side your school choice legislation. Besides the votes, what do you see as being different about the actual proposal put forth this year?
Oh, thank you for that question. So this is very different from what we've done in the past. So a voucher literally takes money from a public school and moves it to a private school. That's what a voucher is. That's the definitional difference between a scholarship and a voucher. So what we've done in this bill with the leadership of the speaker and the chairman and the governor and others is this provides for 20,000 scholarships, and not one red cent will be removed from a public school. So we will continue to fund our public schools at almost $7 billion a year. We've added $3.8 billion new dollars to our K-12 public schools over the last decade, and we're going to continue that this year. And we're going to do school choice with 20,000 scholarships on top of what we're doing with public school. That is very different from a traditional voucher, and so that's how this differs from bills in the past. All right, everybody good?
I got it, Mom.
All right, well, it's good to see y'all, and again, have a good weekend, which is always weird to say on a Thursday. But
Bright and early.